Radio Show. Got an opinion or want to ask us a question? Email radio@experiencepros.com or message us on the Experience Pros Facebook page, and we'll interact with you live on the show.
Welcome back to the Experience Pros Radio Show. We do want to interact with you live on the show. Go ahead and reach out to us. You can write your comments in on our Facebook Live, or you can always just come pick up your phone and give us a call if you want. The number's 303-632-4160. What you got?
What I got?
What you got?
I've got some innovative ways to get more media coverage.
I love more media coverage.
Who doesn't love more media coverage, right? We want more people to have heard of us. That's the goal. Well, that is not only the goal, that's the plan. In fact, you can make that your 100-day plan to get more media coverage than you are getting now.
Absolutely.
I think that is an incredible goal, completely attainable for your business. According to Josh Stamley, he says pitching the media can be overwhelming. It's a long, hard process to come up with an idea, find relevant journalists, pitch them, and then follow up. But the results are worth it. He says his own company has generated millions of dollars of business from well-placed articles, radio interviews, and the such. And he says, I'm not the only one finding success with PR.
Absolutely.
He's got some great stories, some great examples of how some different companies have used some innovative techniques to get more media coverage.
Case study number one, the software company AirTame was, back in 2014, the most crowdfunded project on Indiegogo. One gets a lot of press being the most crowdfunded project, says Stefan Hildebrandt, head of marketing. But most people forget how this can be utilized years into the future. We talk about leveraging.
Into the future,
a lot, right?
Your media coverage isn't one and done. And so often as entrepreneurs, we say, yeah, I did that. I was on, and that was then. But we don't leverage it for the future. They say a year after their crowdfunding campaign, they got coverage in several other publications.
Yep.
When they raised $1.3 million, everybody was super excited to talk about them. He says, we had our edge as being the most crowd-funded, and it was interesting news. But don't be shy of reusing the same story over and over again. We always encourage you to share and share again.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. When you leverage your presence, we use radio, but there's lots of other ways to do it. When you leverage your brand with that, you've got a story that will play over and over again. We interviewed not this gentleman, but another person from Indiegogo, who at the time was the new leading, I think it was like 2 years ago, the most sold ever on Indiegogo. We interviewed them, and they told the story of, it was great. We went from 0 to 6 million or 20 million or whatever it was. And then realized we don't have the infrastructure to build it out. So what do? We get together, we collaborate, and we build out. That's kind of and then they can tell that story from any different angle. Yes, we were the most successful. Yes, we failed miserably. Yes, we solved the problem. You got multiple stories out of one story.
Lots of stories. And you already do this now, right? You have your blogs, and you've got your videos, and you turn those into articles, and you repurpose those articles, and you turn those into ebooks, and we already take and repurpose.
Right.
Case number 2, if your product isn't interesting, then according to Jens Jacob Anderson, he says, don't mention it.
Are you sure it's not Hans Jacob Anderson? Hans Jacob Anderson, Jingleheimer Schmidt. His name is my name too.
Okay, maybe. No. His business is called runrepeat.com, and he was having some problems getting, nobody wanted to cover him, right? Because why? Everybody is pitching journalists on products. This is not interesting. But he said, I'm focusing on his own website. He used his statistical background to build studies for the media to use. He says, by crunching some data, I found that cheap running shoes are better than expensive ones, and the media loved it.
There's a story.
There's a story there. He says most people focus on pitching their product, but journalists get so many product pitches. Create a study that's related to what you're an expert in. You give the journalist a lot of value without any obvious promotional intentions.
And by the way, since his first study, Anderson's managed to be mentioned in more than 100 publications and brought out on radio as well. The story is there. And what a great thing. I want to sell shoes. I make cheap shoes. Maybe I should say cheap shoes. And now it's got to be backed up by data, right?
Yeah, he did some data. And so he did a study. And so you can crunch some data and come up with some statistics. Again, you're not selling your shoes and talking about my shoes. He's talking about shoes in general.
That's exactly right. How about case number 3? And it's called news hacking or newsjacking. And the idea of it is it has to be timely, right? Mads Hollis from the auction aggregator Merto explains that news hacking is about finding interesting stories done by other companies and then taking over as the owner of the story. Not stealing the story, but saying, you know what? A train derailed south of Seattle. And then you know the story. It's not your story, but you tell the story and you tell it from a perspective that's going to benefit you as the expert in the arena.
Anything trending in the news, in pulp culture, in science and technology, if other news media outlets are talking about it, you can create a story that stems off of it. Yeah. And the story will end up getting local attention because we're already talking about the first subject.
Right.
And when we search out and we find articles on that first subject, your articles then come along with it. And it's also a great thing to pitch to journalists, especially if you have a different angle on the story that's already been shared repeatedly, dried up over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. News hacking or newsjacking is a great way to get the attention and become the expert source.
It's just borrowing. We're just borrowing a little bit of something over here. Talking about innovative ways to get more media coverage for your brand. Of course, if you want our complimentary guide, check us out at massivemediaexposure.com. The SlideShare hack. They say SlideShare is like YouTube, but for presentation slide decks. So those who hate presentations, this might not sound like really, really exciting things, right?
A new level of Dante's Inferno.
Right. Tobias Shell from 24slides.com uploaded a presentation. She thought the slides would be useful on other platforms too. So he pitched a few highly targeted journalists with links to his deck. The result? Multiple mentions in top-tier publications, including Huffington Post.
Listen, here's the lesson out of all of it, folks. Pitch people, not publications. You want to pitch stories, not products. And if you do that, you will become more and more valuable. I can't tell you how many conversations, Angel, I've had in the last month with people who come to me and say, Eric, I know that you and Angel have helped people become what's called an influencer, right? Mm-hmm. And how can I do that too? And like Angel mentioned, we have the answer to that question for you. Go to massivemediaexposure.com right now and just put your name and email in. We'll send you the report and we hold nothing back. There's 7 points on how to gain this kind of exposure and become an expert source and join the over 800,000 other expert sources that are out there. You can become one too. Innovation is not complicated. It really isn't. And this is the shift that your company's been looking for.
And make sure you email journalists and follow up on stories. Keep sending them new stuff because they're just like you. They always need new content.
There it is. All right. We will be back right after these messages. Don't go anywhere. Angel Tussey, Eric Raymer. We're empowering you to build your brand right here on the radio. Back after this.
You're listening to the Experience Pros Radio Show.